Well, this is Dr. Clyde, and hello, Chef Pachi. Welcome back.
Hello, Dr. Clyde.
We're talking about snacks today, and Pachi has some amazing gourmet versions of how I normally snack, which is just to open something, throw something in, and move on. Here, we're actually paying attention to the experience. And what she's done for us is given us some gourmet snacks that are layered by carbohydrate level so that we can think about how to address our physiological needs as opposed to just having an apple or some almonds and not thinking about why we're snacking. So first off, if your energy is low, you might be dehydrated, have a glass of water. Just want to put that out there. And it doesn't mean your blood sugar is necessarily low. But if you're hungry, you might have a low blood sugar. But if your energy is good, you might not. So snack on something that's higher in protein or fats. You might not necessarily need to get a carbohydrate fuel. And you can see on the top row snacks here, we've got blueberries are a little bit of a carbohydrate, and in the middle image, there's a little bit of honey on there, but not much. So these are mainly, either vegetables on the right or fats with a little bit of honey in the middle, or some protein with some fats and a little bit of carbohydrate. And as you move down in the middle row, you're seeing fruit where you're bumping up your blood sugar more. If a glass of water isn't cutting it and your energy is low, probably your blood sugar is low. And you're doing a lot that day and you're trying to stay on on your computer screen, or you're running around taking care of errands or whatever it is, and you're way better off with having a snack that includes some fruit. And then if you have a high activity level, then you go to the bottom row. You can see it moving left to right. There's either mini pitas or a mini bagel or some crackers. So Chef Pachi, talk us through these rows and how to think about putting together something that's way tastier than just, grabbing one thing and going the way I and many people usually do.
Okay, the first thing that I wanted to do was be able to buy some things that you can have in the fridge and don't spoil, like the salmon, which is a smoked salmon, and the smoked tuna, and we have some smoked grouper on top. We also have some prosciutto and some serrano ham. And nowadays, they sell them in very small packages, 2 ounces, 1.5 ounces. And you can just keep them on the side of the fridge or on the door, and you have something there that's going to give you some protein, especially if you need the salt. So we start with the first row that has the salmon, the smoked salmon, a little bit of brie. Same thing with the cheese. If you buy, for example, a brie and you want to know how much an ounce is, you just look at the back and say it says 5 ounces. So cut the cheese into 5 triangles, and that's it. Then you keep it covered in the fridge, and it's going to be perfect, at least for the week. Then we have the blue cheese with walnuts, and we add a little bit of honey, but we don't mix it. Also, it has some thyme in it. And what you do is that the thyme and the honey blend great with the blue cheese. You won't even think it's strong. It's going to be delicious. But you don't mix the honey with the walnuts because you want your tongue to feel the honey and the sweetness. Then with the grouper, we have grouper with ginger and some greens. I like the white ginger. I adore eating that white ginger. And then you can add a little bit of wasabi if you want, or a little bit of olive oil, and that's it. In the middle, we have fruit that people usually buy, and they're apples, kiwis, and mangoes. Not necessarily they buy here. They buy them here a lot, but it can be, any other fruit. And we have the first one with just 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. The second one, that's ricotta cheese. But you can do it with 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and you won't believe, because if you start adding the peanut butter to each slice, you can add much, much more. And that has cinnamon too. In the middle, we have the kiwi with a little bit of ricotta cheese also, and some nuts. And then it has some pepper to make it a little bit like sweet and not so. And finally, in the second row, we have mango and prosciutto. Normally, you have prosciutto and melon, which you could do if you wanted a lighter fruit. but we get a lot of mangoes here, so it's a great fruit for us to work with because it's always around. In the bottom with the bread, we have the smoked tuna, which is the same like the other two smoked products that comes in very small packages, almost individual packages, and you can keep them, store them, and they can sit in your fridge for the whole month and nothing happens, with some greens and some pita. And what I do is that I add a little bit of some dark mustard and make little sandwiches. They are delicious. The mustard is much stronger than the kale that's there, and it mixes a little bit the salt with the bread, so it's great. And then we have like some mini pitas, and what they have, instead of a cream cheese, you can add cream cheese, but what I have there is Greek yogurt with salt and pepper and herbs. And the last one is just a little bit of greens with some crackers and also some pickled ginger with some prosciutto or serrano ham, because those things keep in your fridge perfectly, and then you just grab fruit that you have that you're using and make a mix. Also the little tiny pieces of pita and of bread, they also come frozen also in packages, so you can actually have them and not have to worry about, I don't have this, I don't have that. Ricotta cheese, if you open the ricotta cheese, open the plastic that goes between the cover and the cheese and leave it just ajar. It'll last for a long time because it will dry and get a little more thick, just like yogurt, Greek yogurt and plain yogurt. Leave them ajar and they won't spoil. They'll spoil eventually, but they won't spoil in at least 2 weeks. So that's what
letting a little bit of that water evaporate out reduces the rate that the bacteria grow.
And it's amazing.
So that's a great hack. That's a great hack. And so the bottom line here is, and I see kind of a theme here where you're putting like ricotta with kiwi and prosciutto with mango, a little bit of a drizzle of honey and walnuts and the cheese, putting some blueberries with the salmon and the cheese. There's kind of a theme here, not all of them, but many of them where you've got a little bit of a sweet and a little bit of a sour together. And that's a great combination. If you're just looking for savory, you can see in the upper right, there's the grouper and ginger that doesn't have a sweetness added. And if you're doing a workout and it's not a rest day, and then it's a good idea to go to one of those that's on the bottom and add a little bit of the starch. If you're worried about some of it going to body fat because of the digestion rate, have some vegetables in that. So you can see in the lower left, there's some kale that comes there. That's going to slow down digestion. The middle one doesn't have that. So if you're snacking and you got to get a protein and a refuel from a workout, and you want to go gourmet, a la Chef Pachi, then you go with something like that's on the middle on bottom. So just kind of to reiterate, how do we engineer our snacks? If you're low on energy, start out with a glass of water. That might help you. But if you're snacking just like on nuts or just some prosciutto or a piece of cheese, that will bump up your blood sugar. So if your energy isn't coming up and you're snacking for mental and physical energy, include a little bit of fruit in that snack. If the glass of water didn't help at all, right? There might not just be dehydration. And if you're athletic and you're coming off of an activity, or even if you're not athletic at all and you did an activity break, you went on a brisk walk for lunch right before you ate lunch, and you're going to have like a small meal or a healthy snack, then include, if the fruit isn't going to be enough to help you with an activity, then you go with that bottom row where you've got some starch. And if you're worried about the insulin response, then you put some kale or some other little bit of vegetable in there. So that's how you think of kind of gear shifting to match your metabolic rate, and whether you're trying to raise your energy levels or if you're just trying to address hunger, then you would go lower carbohydrate. So a little bit of blueberries, a little bit of honey. That's not going to raise your blood sugar quickly at all. But if your energy is low, then you add that piece. If you just keep snacking and you just can't get rid of the hunger, probably your blood sugar is low. And, you know, I use this term in my courses, this concept of eating too healthy, where you want to stay away from carbs to the point where you let your energy drop and you're eating almonds and dark chocolate like crazy. And really that's putting out a fire with the wrong type of extinguisher. If part of your energy and your hunger issues are from low blood sugar, give yourself a break and add a half apple in there. And then put a combination like what Chef Pachi's showing here, so that once in a while you spruce it up and can have a deeper level experience with it. I mean, half an apple or an apple is fine, but when you start adding things like this a few times a week, it's really something to look forward to. Any final comments on snacks, Trisha? What would you do if you're going out for, your 6 hours on the go, and so you really can't do a presentation like this? Would you just throw one of these in a little Tupperware or a baggie?
Yes.
Or what do you do on the go when you're going to be out all day?
My special on the go is a piece, a long piece of sourdough, because I love sourdough. Then I add some mustard on it, a lot of greens. I do mustard greens for some reason, because they don't take up so much space as kale. So if I'm going to go out, that's it. Then I add either some salmon, or I add some cheese and maybe a little bit of ham. Cut the bread in two and double it like this. You're going to see in a couple of pictures that I have the next time. It's that big, but they all hold perfectly. And it takes me through the whole class without any problem. And I love sourdough.